Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast. Today, I am flying solo. Em is out of office for the rest of the week, planning and doing all the things. It is a very busy time of year, so I am going to do a episode for you guys on looking at the year ahead and reflecting on the year that's been. So, something that I think is one of my superpowers is how I reflect and I plan. It's something that I love doing, it's something I would do all the time if I could. And so, we thought this would be a good topic for me to talk about today. So, with that being said, let's get started and look at how I'm reflecting on the year that has been and taking the lessons with me into 2026.
We are child development obsessed, business besties, and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist,
And this is the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast.
I hands down cannot believe that we are in December. It is nuts how quick this year has gone. Whoa, it's been busy, hey? And I can't even believe that it's 2026 next year. Like that blows my mind a little bit as well. It makes me feel quite old. But I am getting excited because next week I'm going away for my quarterly planning. And something that I do at the end of the year, I don't like to do a big 12-month plan in December because I feel like it's a really busy time of year and I'm usually pretty tired. So I feel like I'm not in that mindset to really think big. So I do my 12-month, like 5-year vision and 12-month plan mid-year. And then I will kind of do a little bit of a longer check-in in December, January to really look at my schedule, those sorts of changes that are happening for the next year. Obviously, there's changes with kids and care and whatnot. So I kind of look at that from a schedule perspective. I also like to look at what holidays we're taking, the school holidays I need to look at for Kids Heart Pilates. So I kind of look at that in and around December and January. I really like to do in December because I like to go on my break knowing what is happening for the next 12 months. But in saying that, it's not a huge deal if this is left till January because, as I said before, we're pretty tired at this time of year. So it can be something that's quite hard to do if you are quite tired. But what I like to do is really, firstly, reflect on what has been over the last 12 months. Something I did last night, because I obviously share quite a lot on my social media. So I went back to the end of last year, start of this year, and I was like, what did I reflect on last year? And what did I kind of set out for this year? Because I will come up with like a word or a phrase for the year and I'll share it on social media. So I looked back last night and I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something about it being our time. It's our time. So my phrase for this year, and I had a photo of my family and I was like, this is our time. And it was really, really good to do. And I find this to be a really, really helpful practice because you can get to this time of the year and we're tired and we're kind of over it. We're ready for a break. And it can be like, oh, this year has been so hard. It has been like, it's just been a terrible year or just like full of so many challenges. And you kind of, I feel like you naturally think about the difficult things rather than the things that went really well. So I really enjoyed doing this because I was like, okay, what did I set out to do? And how did I go about doing that? So I'll just pull up what mine was. So obviously um I had my holiday planned. I was already doing my marathon training. Let me just check, where am I at? 12th of January, we're nearly there. Yes, here we go. Happy New Year. My 2025 mantra is it is our time. This is my and Pete's mantra for 2025. Well, admittedly, I came up with it and got the approval by Pete, but I think it incorporates so much from work to family time to working towards some big personal and professional goals. This year is all about stepping into my power and claiming it. It is our time. We have worked hard and now it is time to step into it, accept it, and enjoy it with our family. So that was so cool to look at, just to kind of see where my head was at and what I wanted for 2025. And when I really think about that, I think that I got that. Like when I sat down and did my some reflection with Lorraine, my mentor, yesterday, and some of the things that came up of the wins were my overseas holiday and switching off for 3 weeks, just all the travel that I've done with family. So we went to Melbourne in January as a family. We did all the theme parks with the family for the kids' birthdays, and we did our big overseas holiday. And so they were very much part of my wins for the year. And the other thing I looked at was just the systems that I put in place, because without those systems, I wouldn't have had that win. So that was kind of another win. So I think it's really, really good to look at where your head was at in January, what you wanted this year to be, and see if you're aligned. Because as I said, super duper easy to just kind of focus on the tricky things, which, is fine, because we know that the challenges do become really, really good learning. And Em and I did a podcast on that, when we were doing like our year in reflection last year. So yeah, I can't remember if we did a podcast on what we were kind of planning for this year. I want to have a look though, because again, I'd really like to see what I was thinking. Um, so some questions that you can start to ask yourself to reflect on the past 12 months. Were there any like recurring themes over the year? Was there anything that surprised you? What stretched you? Like what almost or pushed you to your limit? And what shifted inside of you, not just around you. So I think that we can really, life is busy and we can rush through our growth and not really fully step into it. But the power of growth is stopping and reflecting and seeing how far you've come and seeing what worked and what didn't work, and how you then were flexible around that and what impact that had on you, both personally and professionally. So I think there's lots of things that we need to think about in terms of our reflections, not just work, it's holistic. Then I think you can pull those wins out and really start to go, what wins did I have? And list all of them. Don't keep it to two or three. List all of the wins that you had, and write them down and just reflect on why you had those wins. Like, what was it that you did or your team did or your family did, or what was it that ensured that you had those wins? Because I think that's quite powerful. We can latch onto the challenges, but really, like, first set yourself up and think about those wins. I think it's important to mention there's a few ways to do this. You can block out a whole day to do this. You could block out a couple of hours. Another really effective way, that I have been doing when I haven't been able to block out a whole day, is kind of taking those questions or having a series of questions. And you could pop this into ChatGPT as well. I'll put the ones that I've got here in the show notes. But popping down the questions and just having them in your journal and doing like a 5 to 10 minute meditation or longer if you can, and then journaling on one question a day. And it's just something that you can kind of just do over a period of time if you don't have the big block. So then let's look at the challenges that we had. And we really want to focus on what these hard moments are really teaching us. What can we extract out of those challenges? Because I look at every single challenge, and I obviously talked to this a little bit about my marathon journey and my trip and the challenges there. But all the challenges are teaching us, and so often, and it's hard to do in the moment when you're in that challenging moment, but so often the challenge equals, or the outcome of the challenge is just so much better than if it had just been smooth sailing. So I think it's important to remind ourselves that in the moment, but I know that's really hard. But what we can do is reflect on it and go, okay, how did I come out of that? Because what happens is when you reflect, particularly on the challenges, is you start to build a toolkit, proof and evidence that you can get through challenges so that as you go forward, the more challenges you get, you don't necessarily have the same sort of reaction, or it doesn't have the same impact on your mental health or your energy or how you behave. So I think, when I started out in business, I used to, like, if someone resigned, I would have this whole big reaction and kind of wipe out hours of my day. Whereas now, if someone resigns, I'm like, I always have found someone to fill that spot, like always. And as much as it's sad, I'm also really happy that someone has made a decision for themselves. And if that's not with me, that's okay, or my business, that's okay. Generally, 9.99 times out of 10, I've got a really good relationship with them. So I'm happy that they have made that decision. We have a really nice conversation, and yeah, we go on, from there. So it doesn't have that same impact. And that's just because experience has shown me that I can expand beyond that challenge. So I think it's really good from that sense as well. So when we start to look at challenges as teachers instead of threats, it means that we can manage our energy. And we talk so much on this podcast about burnout. This is what it all comes down to. It's like how we're responding um, and feeling, like what our reaction is to a perceived threat or a challenge or whatnot. And when we can, kind of face that and go, okay, well, we'll get through this. It's going to be okay. What am I learning here? Or when you come out the other side, looking at it, then you build that evidence. So I think the other thing that challenges can teach us is just, are there any patterns along the way? Like are there habits that you need to change? Taking that full accountability for challenges. What was your part in that challenge? Could you have done something differently? Could you have done something more, less? Could you have delegated something? Could you have empowered someone better? Just what patterns that you start to see in your energy, in relationships, in your leadership, in your personal growth, in your resilience, and just start to see, is it evolving? Because you'll start to see trends when you start to do this over the years. And then I think another really important thing around challenges, and I talked to this about this marathon reflection, is just how values aligned you were in those challenges. Like, did the challenge happen because you were misaligned from a values perspective and you needed to make change? And it wasn't easy, because sometimes, even though you're doing something that is aligned with what you need and what you want, doesn't mean that it is going to be easy. So just looking at those and just seeing how aligned you were with your values when things became messy and uncertain. And I think, everyone in allied health at the moment has experienced a bit of a time of uncertainty. So how are you responding to that? Are you having a anxious response? How is that impacting your behavior? Are you having a empowered response, and how is that impacting your behavior? And what are the outcomes from that? Are there patterns in your behavior? Is there something that you need to address there? So I think that accountability and that responsibility for what's happened is also really, really empowering. Like if you can see your part in the challenge, you can only change you. You can only adapt what you are doing, the way that you think and the way that you behave. So if it is all on you, that's awesome because you can change that. And if it's not, if the challenges are not because of you, what you can control is your response to them. So just getting your mindset around those challenges is really, really helpful. So some practical prompts for you are, what did I learn that I want to take forward with me? What have I outgrown? Where did I ignore my intuition and what did it cost me? So good. And where did I surprise myself? Love those questions. I love these little prompts, and these are things perfect for journals or if you're like blocking out a day. Um, and when I like to start with the wins and then I go on to the challenges and then I look at setting up the next 12 months. And as I said, look at, what the vision is, the values and so on, which I'll talk about in a moment. But when we're looking at those wins, I like to look at both personal and professional. And I like to look at why I had that win. So what were the daily habits, or what were my thought patterns, or what were my priorities for those wins. So, for example, if we look at my overseas holiday with my family, like massive win for me. How did I achieve that win? I worked on it for 18 months, made sure I was systemized. I promoted team members into a leadership team and empowered them. Like all these things that I did to be able to do that. And I remember reflecting on one a little while ago. It was quarterly because I look at my wins quarterly as well. And I looked at it and it was my scheduling. And I was like, the reason I could achieve this was because my schedule was mapped out for me. And that's an habit that I do every quarter. And it's a ritual I do every quarter. And it's something that I need to keep doing because that equated to that win. So I think that, you start to pick out the things that you're doing, the practices, the rituals, the habits that you're doing to create that win. And then you start to prioritize those in your schedule, which will come next. So personally, let's ask some questions. What were our moments of joy, connection, calm, rediscovery, habits that supported your well-being, and any like inner shifts, not just your outer achievements. And I think that's something, again, I talked to last week. That has been massive for me this week. And I can't wait. I haven't done this yet, but I can't wait to do this next week and just do a big journal entry and just get my head set of leaving 2025 in 2025, but taking the bits that I've learnt with me into 2026. So I'm evolving each year. And then professionally, looking at what systems that finally clicked, leadership growth, team alignment, projects or clients that energized you. What work is really energizing you? What are you looking forward to and what are you dreading? Something that I'm doing with Lorraine at the moment is, what is a cockpit activity and what is I can't remember what we called it, a cabin activity. And we've got this plane analogy. And being the business leader, I need to be in the cockpit. I need to see what's ahead. I need to be driving the plane or flying the plane, rather than in the cabin and clearing the plate or managing all of the people. So really reflecting on, what energizes you, what strips you, what are the activities that only you can do, and what can you delegate and empower to somebody else. I think are really, really like just meaningful ways to look at your time and set up your schedule. Any meaningful impact professionally or breakthrough that reminded you why you do what you do? Love that. I did a kindy intensive in October and September and October, and I'm doing one next week for the same center. And doing that really reminded me why I do what I do. I connected with the educators. I had so much fun and connected with the kids. I was able to impart all my learnings from the last 15 years with these educators. They loved it, lapped it up, and I was working with kids that were undiagnosed or, getting rejected from pediatricians or on a wait list and just being able to impact them before they get diagnosed and just the learning that I get from it. Like it was just served me in so many ways. So I definitely am taking that into next year and looking at what I want to do with my time next year. And so then really we want to take all of that reflection and use that to start setting up 2026, the next 12 months. So we want to, instead of setting it up from a pressure perspective, we want to set up our goals and our mission and vision from a place of truth. Like, what has actually happened? What have we noticed? What are we feeling? And yeah, what do we want to feel next year? What do we want it to look like next year? So if I was doing this in a day block, I would do my reflection. So when I go and do my 3-day retreat, I do reflection on day one, planning on day two, and then some action points on day three. So I start working on it. So if I was doing it in a day, I would just separate these two. So do a big reflection piece, maybe go for a walk, have lunch, do something kind of quite grounding and energizing, and then come back and go, okay, where do I want to be next year? So what I tend to do at the end of the year is go back to my mid-year plan, which is where I want to be in the next 5 years. And I go, right, what do I need to be doing in the next? Because I'm working year to year financial years. It's like, what do I need to achieve to reach my 1 year goals by end of June? But what else do I need to kind of then be on beyond that? So what seeds do I need to be planting now to be on track for those 5 year goals? So really kind of revisiting that and making sure that I'm aligned and I've got that in the back of my mind or, insight while I'm looking at my 2026 plan. But I think as I said, I really I'm not kind of setting targets or anything at this point. I'm going, how do I want 2026 to feel? What do I want it to look like? And getting my mindset right, because I think that's the energizing thing about it. And then making sure my schedule, like when am I traveling? When am I going on holidays? When are the school holidays placed? So how much, what commitments do I have with my kids at home? What am I already booked in for next year? Because I've got a bunch of courses that I'm doing, presenting next year. So what's already in and what can I actually achieve? Like what can I actually do? And looking at those cockpit activities and when I put those in, like how much time do I actually have? How can I map this year out so that I am ensuring that I'm looking after myself and I'm working from a place of abundant energy, I guess. So we want to um, we want to look at, as I said, how do we want to feel? What do we want it to look like? How do we want to work? How do we want to live? So this is both personal and professional in 2026. We want to check in with our values. So are your commitments, how you want to feel, how you want to lead, how you want to live, are they aligned with your values? Or is it more a sense of obligation? Oh, I feel like that's so powerful because I feel like sometimes it will be as a part of obligation. And that is such a trigger to burnout when you're working out of obligation rather than your values. Like such a big, important thing for us to consider when we're looking at what we're trying to achieve. So writing it all down and then just go, wait a second, where are my values? And are these aligned with my values? Or am I putting that because I feel like I have to do it? Because that is going to be draining. And then looking at what rhythms or boundaries you need to put in, what support you need for this next year. And again, looking at that schedule, and I always like to put in my self-care. So that would look like holidays, retreats, any of that sort of stuff. Then I put in my family stuff, and then I'll put in my work stuff into the schedule. So, yeah, really looking at that schedule, like how maintainable it is. What boundaries do you need to put in place? How do you need to communicate those? Things like that. And then a bit of a growth check. So, what identity shifts are required for the version of you that you are becoming? And I love what Lorraine always gets us to do is where you want to be in 12 months or 5 years, and then going, what would Liz in December 2026 do about X, Y, and Z? And when you're going through a challenge, that's really effective as well. So, what is really, really helpful is to take yourself to that point in time you're thinking about. So, it's December 2026. What have you achieved? How do you feel? What has the last 12 months looked like? What has been really energizing? How has your time looked? What holidays did you go on? So kind of writing it as if it's already happened is an amazing exercise to do, and what I'd really, really recommend when you're kind of mapping out your goals. So then coming up with a bit of a phrase or a term or a word that kind of brings you back to that moment. So you go December 2026, these are things that I have achieved. And you can break this up similarly to the quarterly plan. So it could be, individually, it could be in your business or your position, could be at home, your family, any nice things, any travel, any holidays, like breaking them up into sections and writing it down. And how did it feel this year? Um, you know, yeah, thinking about all of those things that have just happened in your mind, in your visualization, and then going, what is a word that or a phrase that represents this? What is something that I can look at that is going to take me to this December 2026 that encapsulates that feeling and what this looks and feels like for me? And then putting that somewhere that you're going to see. Like I was saying, I looked at mine from the start of the year, and I did not look at it throughout the year. I think I looked at it for the first half of the year. So I almost need to schedule an email for myself going, hey, don't forget, this is what you wanted this year to look like. This is where we're at. And this is your phrase. You can put it on your phone, obviously, that or somewhere that you see it. I also do up a Canva like vision board, and I do it for myself and for each of my businesses, and I laminate it and I put it in the shower. But that's extreme. So yeah, so that is what I'm going to be doing next week. I'm going to go through, do my reflection piece. And this is something that I just love to do. So go through, do my reflection piece, then really look at those lessons that I've learned, the patterns that I see in myself, really be accountable and responsible for what my part in it, looking at the wins and why I had those wins, the challenges and why I had those challenges, and what of those lessons I'm taking through into 2026. I hope you have found this helpful. I, for one, am very excited to do it. I would love to hear how you go with it and what some of your wins were for 2025. And were they things that you might not have remembered if you didn't sit down and write them? I think the power in reflection is, one of them is that we can pat ourselves on the back for the things that we achieved and the challenges that we overcame. So, I would love to hear your thoughts and your reflections and your wins and what you're doing for 2026. All right, guys, bye.